right, guys, so welcome back to Inherent Success Podcast, where this is your guide through self-discovery and healing journey as well. On the podcast, it's based on transformational stories, so it's a little bit of everything. Also interviews with my great friends in their business journey, coaching journey, health, wellness, all of the above. And today I have my good friend, Brittni Shae. I was going to say your last name, but I already forgot it. Master Pietro.
You got
there
it.
There you go.
But Brittni Shae is fine.
Brittni Shae. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited. Just to give you guys a little background of how we met. I actually met Brittni at the gym. She was so sweet, came up to me, said hi to me.
I was following her actually, and she's like, "What?" And I was
I was like, "Oh my God, thank you."
Yeah, so she does NPC Bikini, and I was like, okay, let me see. I think I had followed her off of Matt's page. I was like, this girl looks good. So I followed her, and she was like, oh, okay, you follow me already.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how we met. She's so sweet, came up to me in the gym, and she's also a competitor as well. And we'll get into a little bit about that. Definitely dive in because, that world is very interesting, right? Like, at least for me, last year was my first season ever, and we'll get into the weeds about that too. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
It really is fun. Like, even though I always say this, like, bodybuilding is not for everyone. But it's like, it's very rigid. It's just like intense because it is an extreme sport. Especially for women, like it's really hard on our bodies too, but it's just like all of that leading to the moment. I don't know what everyone thinks of it, but like leading to the moment of getting on stage, you're all glammed up and you're just like showcasing literally your hard work, because it's hard work. Yeah. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about like, how you got into your fitness, like really take us back.
Okay.
I know that you've been doing it for a while. I was kind of like stalking you a little bit on your on your Instagram, but like take us back into like how you got started into your fitness journey.
So I actually started in 2010 on my personal fitness journey, and I was like, I got labs done and I was not really healthy. Considering I was in my mid-20s, my lab markers were not good, and I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So I was like, I need to start taking care of myself. I just graduated with my master's degree, and I was working occupational therapy. I have my master's degree in occupational therapy, and I was working in a hospital, and they were giving labs for their, annual health fair that they had. So that was a wake-up call. I was like, okay, I need to start taking care of myself. I would exercise. Like, I always went to the gym. I would play sports, in junior high and high school. I was a runner, cross country, track and field, stuff like that. But, the diet was a problem. Drinking was a problem. And it all added up that I just wasn't as healthy as I thought. So, I was definitely overweight, and I held all the weight in the stomach. And that is not good for your health. That can lead to heart issues. That could lead to diabetes. It could lead to a lot of different things. So I was like, okay, I need to start taking care of myself. So I went on, it was called caloriecount.com back in the day. Started plugging my food in. I didn't know anything about macros, but it was like you're kind of low on carbs. So I was like, let me just eat some animal crackers. Like, I still remember like plugging that in, and I was like, that's fine. Like, I'm hitting some carbs. No idea. However, with that process, I did lose quite a bit of weight. I went from, I believe, like my highest was, for reference, I'm 5'2", so I'm a small person, and I know everyone knows I'm a small person. So I'm 5'2", and for reference, like right now I'm like 115, but my highest was like 138, which was a lot on my body, and it was all at the waistline. So I went down from, I think it was like 128, 129 when I started, and I got down to like 116 that year by like June. So it was like 6 months I did that, just doing calorie counting. And I was running because, Florida is beautiful for running. So I went out and ran and went to the gym, did some resistance training. But from there, I started really enjoying like losing weight and making change. So I started getting almost like addicted to it a little bit. I was like, I really feel good. I started saying no to my friends. Like, I didn't really want to go out partying every weekend like I used to. Or if I did, I just made different choices. So still hanging out with the same friends, but I wasn't, getting totally wasted. I still had my fun though, for sure. I still have those pictures, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I'm able to go out and like be fit, feel really confident. So that was kind of a nice change. So kind of go forward in 2011, I went to Vegas to party. I was really into like a lot of like electronic music, pool parties. So I was out there doing my thing, and I saw what the Olympia was. So I was there actually with my best friend at the time. I think she was married by then. No, she wasn't married yet. It was her boyfriend or fiance. I think it was just boyfriend. And his supplement company, he was like a big salesperson for, was actually sponsoring that event. So I went in there. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm like, this sounds really cool. So I fell in love with the sport and decided I was going to compete the next month. So the next month, it was October. So happy anniversary, I guess. October 2011. I was like, I think I'm going to compete. Now, back in the day, there was no like crazy social media except for Facebook.
Yeah, it was just Facebook and like YouTube and all of that.
Yeah.
I remember.
But Body Space and bodybuilding.com was big. So I went on there and got a lot of information. I talked to a couple other people that kind of knew like contest prep. And I decided to prep myself into a show. So I started in October. I was probably like, I think I can remember, I have pretty good memory. I think I was 116 pounds for my starting point. I did 2-a-days right off the bat. I was just actually going through my Facebook memories today. I was like, okay, I was lifting in the morning, doing cardio at night, and I started my prep like in October. I ended up competing in March. And I did my first show. It was in Jacksonville. I got 4th place, and then the next week I competed a week later and I got 1st place. Just prepping myself, no idea what I was doing.
That's so cool.
I did have a posing coach. It was actually Holly Beck. So you know Holly Beck, she does the Sarasota show.
Oh, wow.
So back in the day, she helped me do the posing. She did, give me some tips and stuff about, certain meal plans, but I was still tracking my macros and calories, plugging it into Fat Secret then. I think it was Fat Secret was around. So I started plugging all of those meals in, and then I ended up just kept going. I took a short off season, which I don't think I still knew what I was doing because I was like, it was like 3 months maybe. And then I competed again in August, but I was way too skinny. So like I had kept myself really small and then went through that process. The following year, I decided to switch to the WBFF, which is World Beauty, Fitness, and Fashion. And I was like, let's just give this a shot. Well, I won and went pro in the same show, so I stayed there for a while. So I spent 10 years in the WBFF.
Wow.
Yeah. I left them last fall, and my 40th birthday was coming up this June. So my goal was to get back on stage when I turned 40 for the NPC. So that was my goal. The St. Pete show came out. They started like promoting it last fall, and I was like, I'm doing that show. It's 6 days after I turned 40. That's my goal. So I ended up prepping myself again into this season, and I was ready early. So I did a warm-up show at the start of June, and I got 2nd place in open in 35, and then I went and did the St. Pete and got 1st place in 40, 35, and open, and it was awesome.
Wow.
Got a little smoked by the time I went to the national stage. That's a harder level of competition.
Yeah.
And then I decided, I need to grow a little bit more. So that's where I'm at with that.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, like, I know for sure back then when bikini, like around the time that you started competing in 2011, 2012, like that's when literally bikini, if I'm not mistaken, like that's when bikini came out.
Yes.
And back then, the type of style that it was just more of like you're literally going to the beach. Like you're just going to the beach, like you look good in a bikini and you can get on stage. Like that's literally how it was.
Yeah.
And compared to now, how it's just more of like a muscular type of division. It's still feminine, but it's a lot more muscular, like a regular person can't come from, like just step on stage and then think that they could win. It's not like that anymore. And it's interesting because when I started my fitness journey in 2013.
Nice.
So I was 22.
Yeah.
And like back then there was only YouTube and Facebook. Like Instagram just started, but Instagram was just photos.
Yes.
So it wasn't like how it is now today. So like a lot of the information that I got was mainly on YouTube. And like I literally would just like work out in my room. But like anyways, like at that time, my son was 3 and like I put him to bed and I just like worked out in my room. And it was interesting because like I've always wanted to compete. Like I've always had like, that was like the thing, right? Like the bodybuilding and all that stuff. And in my mind, I thought, this is also good to educate people as well, like what bodybuilding is and like that world looks like, and like also in bikini, like all these misconceptions, like you have to be on these things and PEDs and like all that stuff. But in my mind, that's what I thought. I wasn't really educated, but people would come up to me and be like, oh, like, men in the gym, like they'll be like, oh, wow, you should compete. You have a nice shape. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm like, I guess. So I'm like, okay. So everyone has always told me that. And I don't know, I never did it because of like the misconceptions and not really being educated. So I guess like, what would be your advice to women going into competing,
So obviously I competed naturally in the NPC to start because I was like, well, I mean, I didn't know, that stuff even existed, honestly. That wasn't something that I was familiar with. I really was kind of going in a shot in the dark, even with bodybuilding.com forums, they never really talked about that on there. Maybe in the different forums that were more focused on men or something. But obviously, as time went on, when I went to the WBFF and the pro level, it was totally different. I competed in fitness, Andrea Brazier was like the girl that most people knew. Fitness for the WBFF is like the Victoria's Secret fashion show where they came out with theme wear and the gorgeous suits. So I went pro in fitness, but I wasn't big enough for fitness. So that put a lot of pressure on me. And so I switched to bikini because most women are on a lot of stuff in the fitness because of the muscle density. Because it's a lot to be at that level, because fitness is more of like a small version of figure almost. So I switched to bikini because I was kind of like, well, that's the route I want to go. But I was doing powerlifting too. So powerlifting put a lot of muscle mass on that I didn't have. So I spent a lot of time doing powerlifting for about 2 years while I was competing in bikini. And I had much more muscle density on my lower body because of that. But going into this show, and especially being 40, a lot of women, and that's fine. I mean, people make their choices. So there are competitors that are natural. Like I was able to win. I am natural. I was able to win naturally this year. But, some women do need to utilize things, especially as they get older. HRT is more common at my age. That is banned in the natural federations. So just being aware, there are different federations for different folks. But you could still compete in NPC naturally and do well. I know plenty of people that have won naturally. And I know a girl that just went pro naturally at the Universe. You just got to put the time in. The training and nutrition is key, and commitment and the consistency. I cannot reinforce into people any more than I already do. But I'm like, you got to be consistent. If I'm not a demonstration of that, I was working out till the day I walked in the hospital and had my child, and I had a sprained ankle for the 3 or 4 weeks prior.
It's to emphasize on what you just said, the whole thing about you just got to put your time in. I mean, I stepped on stage last year, but I've been training for over a decade.
So that's why you looked well and did good.
Everyone has their own opinion, but it's totally fine. And I'm just like, listen, this is a decade of work. It's not I didn't take something and I'm like, poof, like in a month. I was only prep. I think I did like a 16-week prep before I went to my first show.
So and you killed it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I won my first show and completely natural. Yeah. And then, 6 weeks after that, I went into nationals. I didn't put on all this muscle into nationals, and I got second in my class.
Yeah, I saw. And which is awesome.
Second in my class, and I've never been to nationals. Like that was I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know I was going to get first call outs.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? I'll never forget that moment when Sandy called first call outs, and my class was huge. It was 16 girls.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'll never forget that moment. I was there, I was all the way at the end. She called my number and put me straight in the middle. And then she started comparing me to, she didn't move me. She just started moving everyone else and comparing me to everyone else. And everyone looked amazing. But I was just I got off the stage. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I'm like, what just happened? but it's amazing. It's like, yeah, like you said, like you gotta put your time in, and you can definitely do this sport. Like if you've been training for that significant amount of time and you have that muscle maturity, you can do it naturally. You don't have to, obviously you want to go with the right coach. You want to get the right guidance. You want to get the right information. I know my coach never pressured me on like PEDs or anything like that. Yes. And, you know, Matt's a great coach. But definitely I've heard cases where, you know, people do go to coaches and they're already like, all right, PEDs, right away, like off the bat. And it's like, what? It's like you didn't even know your body yet, you know, like.
Yeah,
so.
I've heard a lot of horror stories. Why I personally continue to coach myself, I've had coaches a couple times. I was more at the pro level because I assumed, well, I'm at the pro level, I need help. However, those were never my best showings. My last pro show I did was by myself again. And it's just, I know my body. And I also know.
And you coached yourself this.
Yeah, for this season. And I, you know, plan on coaching myself. I'm still coaching myself in my off season, but I plan on doing my next show probably by myself. I have reached out to someone that has been mentoring other coaches for millions of years. No, millions, like 20 years, 15 years.
Yeah, like a lot. Yeah.
So I'm like, why not just go to the source if he's mentoring and have him help me do my peak week? Because that's the hardest part, peak weeks. So peak week, for people that don't know, peak weeks are you're really building up and make sure you're bringing your best that show day. You don't have to do a lot of crazy things. But if you're flat, which I tend to be, I'm an ectomorph. And ectomorphs are people that are a little bit like longer muscle insertions. They kind of rip through food a lot, and then they don't hold that full popping of the muscles. That's me. I rip through food, and then it's really hard for me to have like that full look. So I kind of wondering, you know, it might be nice to have like a second set of eyes beside my husband. My husband's been very helpful too. He's a bodybuilder. So he's able to kind of look at me and say, yeah, you're flat. And then we're like, okay, let's eat some more salt, a little bit more water. Let's put a little bit more carbs in. And it's a lot. So
it is, yeah.
I'm wondering if I have that second set of eyes, we can really bring me in exactly what I need to be. Like, I feel like every time I look at my pictures, I start breaking them all down. I'm like, I could be a little crispier here, or I could have been fuller in this day. Universe, I think I wore through my food because we didn't go on stage till 2. And you know, you start thinking about all these things. But that's why I like to coach. So I coach competitors as well. Most of my clients are lifestyle clients. But I do have competitors, and I coach them naturally because, you know, unless they're already on HRT. So like I said, I have a lot of women that I work with that are 30s, 40s, 50s. And some of them are on HRT, even for lifestyle. And that's, you know, everyone's choices. And that's what I say. But I do think there's opportunity for people to bring up their hormones naturally as well. And that comes down to rest, eating enough, and make sure you get enough sleep. I think that's so underrated.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think ultimately what it comes down to is just like going to the core, right? Like digging deep, like, okay, like why am I not losing the weight? Why am I so restless? Why am I low on energy? Why am I falling asleep all the time? It just comes down to like the functionality of part of it. So like going to get your blood work done and seeing what's wrong with you, because everyone is so bio individual. And I think also too, what I've noticed with coaching is just like there's a lot of cookie cutter shit out there. So a lot of like copy and paste, like everyone doing this, like the coach sending out the same shit to everyone. And then there are a lot of coaches out there too that don't know how to work with women and their hormones as well. Like they don't understand that, you know, we go through different cycles, and it's not because, oh, I'm not following the plan. It's because maybe I'm in a, like, I don't know, like for example, I'm just throwing shit out there, my luteal phase, and I'm holding a little bit more water. So it's just like, it's just really being knowledgeable when it comes to that, because women are so different than men.
Yeah, I would say 99% of my clients are women. I get a handful of men. I did have a male competitor, and he won his Masters in Classic.
That's awesome.
But most of my women, you know, work with me, and we look at, where are you at in your cycle? Because I get freak out emails all the time. Why is my weight out? Why is my weight up? Excuse me. And I'm like, well, let's look at your cycle here. And last month, your weight is actually down 2 pounds from last month when you were at the same cycle. So I like to just make sure I point that out to them. And I'm like, listen, every 2 weeks, your weight's going to be up. And just understand that. And I do believe coaches that, you know, prep clients, especially males that do use performance enhancing drugs, they utilize the same plan on a natural athlete. And there is a big difference. Natural athletes are going to burn through their muscle more than someone that's not natural. So just being aware of like, you can't put someone on that much cardio and expect them to hold on to their muscle. I see it too often, and same with peaking protocols or even just super low carb. In order to perform, you need some carbohydrates. So it's just kind of understanding all those concepts. I do believe prepping someone naturally is different.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll touch a little bit about that later on as well, as far as like, how do you find a good coach and what's a good coach and all those things. But I would love to hear about like just your journey when it comes to like starting your fitness journey. I know that can be really difficult for a lot of people. Like, was that an easy transition for you? Like going into your fitness journey when you started back then?
So I think the most difficult thing about it was information and not knowing exactly what I was doing because I was just starting, right? So I would do cans of soup back in the day, I'm like, oh, those are low calorie, or I would do some new recipes and try things out, just kind of understanding what nutrition really was. So I think having a coach that can actually just give you that information and kind of, coach you through that process is really important. They could give you like list of healthy foods or how to create a good meal. I think oftentimes a lot of clients come to me and they're the standard meals I see that they're having. They'll wake up, they'll have Starbucks, they might have a couple of the egg white bites, and then lunchtime,
like a muffin.
Yeah, lunchtime they'll have just a deli sandwich, or they won't even have a deli sandwich. They'll have a bag of Doritos, and then snack time they'll have crackers, and then for dinner they have whatever's left over. And I'm like, there's just not enough protein there, and there's not enough nutrients.
Right.
And then they're wondering why they're binging at night, and the body is searching for those things. So if I knew what I was doing, I probably would have been even further along my journey. But I do believe, educating myself throughout that process, I was able to pick up things pretty quickly. And then my first contest prep, I was still doing kind of flexible dieting then, where, people, Ashley Kaltwaltzer, I was friends with her on Facebook back in 2012, and she'd be writing to me, oh my gosh, you get to eat like that sauce? I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know. I coach myself, so I'm eating the sauce, So it'd be a little more flexible than most people. I used to put out like recipes all the time on Facebook and Instagram. Back in the day in Instagram, like you'd post your ugly picture of your food and you put your recipe on there and people loved it,
The saturated photos.
Yeah, they were awful. You might put a filter on it, like the pre-made filters, and you're like, that's cute. And it's like bright orange.
I remember those days.
Yeah, so I still did kind of flexible dieting, but I was really restrictive because I really cut out a lot of food by the time I kept rolling because, I felt like I got inflamed or bloated really easily. But I think I was kind of mentally having a relationship with food issue or my weight, trying to keep my weight really close to stage weight for a long period of time. And that was kind of a wake up call, like, okay, like this is probably not that healthy. So I started adding more balance to my life. I had a really bad experience after I worked with a coach on my pro show in 2013. I blew up. So I had to go into this back off phase where I was intuitive eating, and I had to pull back my training because, after a show and you start holding on to so much water and you feel awful, you almost want to get it all off as fast as you can. So I did on bad thing where I went to spin class, which I never did. Went to spin class. I was like, I got to get this weight off. And it was almost making things worse. So I had really bad hormone imbalances, and I was like, I got to take a break. So I took a few years off. And then I went into flexible dieting. That's when it got really popular with eating Pop-Tarts and junk. I don't promote that anymore, but
if it fits your macros type of deal.
I went that route. It was sustainable, but it was not healthy. Because then my labs came back bad again. I had high liver enzymes. My cholesterol was bad because I was eating too flexible. So then that was another wake-up call in 2017, and I'm like, I'm cleaning up my diet. I'm not doing such flexible dieting. And then I did prep again for my last pro show, and then I placed 7th as a pro out of 23 girls, which I thought was good.
It's amazing.
And then I took a break because I got married and had a little one. So that's kind of my little. I've had stints of competing and breaks. So I'm in another break until I think spring 2026. Oh, I hate to say it, but
Yeah, well, I mean, it's beneficial for you because having that rest, like that's how you're going to recover and build muscle. So it's needed. Like I remember last year, I like reflecting back on my competition season. Like I'm like I should have taken a break, you know.
Yeah.
I mean now I'm on a break, and it's just like I don't know.
Same length.
Yeah, like I don't know if I want to compete yet. It's just more of like what am I really doing it for? You know what I mean? So not I don't know yet. It's like 50-50, but I guess to talk about a little bit about the relationship with food aspect, because that does happen a lot with competing. Like I know for me, after my competition season, it was really difficult to, and I'm sure all competitors go through that, especially amateurs. Like I'm an amateur, like your first year of competing, and like, especially seeing myself a certain way for an entire year, and then detaching myself from that identity, from that type of look, and just like slowly introducing other foods into my body, it really like fucked with me.
Yeah.
Like it really messed with me. And I guess we can talk a little bit about like the relationship with the food aspect. So how did at that time, like what was it like? Like how did it affected you?
So my mother still remembers, because like I wouldn't even go out to eat with them. Or if I did, I was like weird, and I had high anxiety to go out to eat with my parents. And they were like, you've got a problem. I would binge on blueberries because I was such a health freak at that time. Like I would be like, I'm not touching dairy. I'm not doing all these things. It was just really restrictive. And looking at my pictures, you can see I was just more like just drawn out. I was just tiny, like, and you know, it wasn't awful, you know, but I was just way too restrictive, and I didn't have a balance. So I didn't gain that weight post show because I was like, well, I don't want to, right? So holding on to that image, did it hold me back from like growth? Maybe, but I was pretty like shredded for going pro into fitness. Like I had that look that they wanted. But I would say now, because I did contest preps with that flexible dieting, like I literally was eating like, I don't know, ice cream, like going into the shows, the ones that I did with the other coach at the time. And that was nice. Like I was like, this is balanced. Like I never had a rebound problem. But then I think that was a little too like on the other side. So now, you know, with my contest preps, I still keep some foods in all the way to about 4 weeks out. And then I keep more of a standard diet, because if you throw in too many different variables, you don't know how you're responding. So I keep my favorite foods in there, but I prefer how I feel eating things that are like rice and avocados and chicken and stuff like that. Like I don't eat a lot of like bread or anything still.
Was your family like did you live a healthy lifestyle, or was that like something known in your family, or no?
Nope, a lot of little Debbie cakes,
I
a lot of donuts. No, we ate a lot of different things. My mother always cooked dinner and stuff, and it was nice. But yeah, we would eat a lot of stuff. And I went, you know, with track and field, we go to McDonald's on the way home or KFC. You know, no, I never grew up that way.
Yeah.
But you know, they got healthier with time as well. So they even have like restrictions. You know, like my dad doesn't eat like pasta or, you know, stuff like that. So like we would modify our stuff, because I do eat pasta still, and even on prep, I would still fit in pasta. So my flexible is to that level. Like I haven't had a Pop-Tart probably like 6-7 years, I would say, you know, like that's not on my radar anymore. I do like to do cereal with whey protein. I mean, that's my max. But yeah, like even with my contest prep clients, I do have them have a shorter list as we get closer to the show, but they track their macros. So it only gives you a little bit more control, so you have less of a rebound after.
Yeah.
But the image thing, so that's more attached to, if you hyper focus on you are a competitor and that's your identity, that's where people have that trouble. So if you can identify yourself as other things during that journey of the stage, that's helpful, because when that stage is gone, who are you? If you just attached yourself to a competitor, now who are you? You know, so just remembering like you're a wife, or you're a mom, or you are this person at your job. Because I do have some clients that have had some struggles after their show, especially when they got shredded, and now they're 20 pounds up right now and they're frustrated. I'm like, this is part of it. You can't maintain that look forever. Like,
yeah.
I have one client that got more shredded than I did. And I'm like, girl, you were shredded. Of course you're feeling like, you know, fluffier, because she had like road maps down her legs, you know, like that's shredded.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard when you see that weight come on, but you have to. And something to note as a natural competitor, you got to remember, like, our hormones, it's totally normal for even as a male, your testosterone's going to plummet and your thyroid's going to drop down. It is what it is, but it will come back. And when you put that food back in your diet, you have to put that food back in your diet. Right. You've got to pull back cardio. You've got to heal yourself, and it will take like 3 to 6 months to return back to normal levels. And you can supplement things for your thyroid. You know, you can have a Brazil nut a day, and that can help your thyroid, but you can also take selenium. That's something I recommend during prep too, is just to make sure you're supporting your thyroid and you're also doing your best you can with your rest, your recovery, your sleep. Those are all in one bucket there, but that can help support your hormone levels as well.
Yeah, no, and I think like it's really important like to set the tone when you're working with a competitor. At least like for me, like just really telling them like, hey, like just so you know, there is this thing called post-show blues. It's really important like to like really follow your reverse diet, like to slowly introduce your body into foods again, and just like really educating them and setting that tone for the competitor. Like it's really important. Do you do that with your clients as well?
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll get right back into the episode. I just wanted to take a quick break here to share with you guys that I do not make any money on this podcast. My goal and my purpose with Inherent Success is to be that guide for individuals in their self-discovery journey. So if you found any value in this episode, make sure to like, to subscribe, and if you know anyone that could benefit from the episode or the podcast overall, you can share with a friend as well. Now, let's get back into it.
Yeah, so I do require my clients to stay on at least 4 weeks post-show. They get their reverse diet plan the night of or the day after their show to get started on those reverse macros. They do get to enjoy their night out and then the next day, but by Monday, you've got to be back on it because you are very sensitive to put weight on very quickly. No matter how many times I've done shows, I think I've done 11 now, my reverse diet phase is still hard. Because what happens is your hormones start triggering hunger signals and you can't control it. It is very difficult. I reverse dieted into my show, into the St. Pete show that I won from my show that was 3 weeks prior. So I was eating 180 carbs every single day and doing refeeds going into that show. So I was at like a really good food level. However, like it was like 60 fat, 180 carbs or something, 160 protein. Like that's pretty good food. No cardio. And no cardio.
That's a lot of food.
Yeah. And then I like during peak weeks, I had 300 carbs, 325 carbs, 400 carbs. You know, you would think like, okay, like she's not gonna be hungry when she starts like reverse dieting. And I was starving reverse dieting from the reverse diet.
Yeah, wow.
And it was hard for, I want to say like 4 to 5 weeks. And finally, it was almost like a whooshing effect. I was like, my body's like finally okay. Like I'm not starving. I had to use a appetite suppressant for reverse dieting because it was that bad.
Yeah. And I think also too, like when your body is just like burning through calories, you're just like hungry. It's crazy. I remember I would eat one meal and then like literally an hour later, I'm like, I can eat like 5 of these. Yeah. Or like whenever I had a lot of refeeds because I was just burning. It got to a point where I was just burning through food and then like, you know.
It's like a blessing, but a curse.
It is. Yeah, it is. But like Matt was just feeding me a lot. And like every peak week I was eating so much. Yeah. And whenever he would give me my refeeds, I was like, I would have the burger and the fries, and I was like, I can honestly eat like 5 of these.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how the body works during like a competition prep, and how when your body gets to that point of like, I can literally eat everything. And I think also too, what's really important, and I'm just gonna be careful of saying this because it's really true. You know, eating disorders naturally comes from, you know, trauma, and like how and ends up being like some type of coping mechanism too.
Yep.
So that's what eating disorder ultimately what it is, right? It can either be like, and eating disorder can look any type of way. It can look like, yes, you're following such a rigid plan because you want to look a certain way, you're attached to a certain identity, right? or you binge on food because you're so stressed and food has always been your comfort growing up or anything like that. Or another disorder of like, okay, I'm eating and then I'm purging out right after, you know? So there's so many different ways of eating disorders. So I have a lot of compassion for women in the sport and women coming out of the sport. And I really don't like when people talk shit about women, like, oh, look at her, she gained like 30 pounds. Yeah. Okay, but why?
Yeah.
You know, like I always think about what's her story? What is she going through? Like, why all of a sudden, like she goes straight to food after a show? Like, what is her comfort? You know, there's so many stories of eating disorders. And even people, why people are obese, and not really to get too deep into that, but like, you know, there was this one study that they did, I forgot the name, but there was like a clinical trial of like someone, a lady, she was obese, and they were supporting her for her to lose weight, and she was doing really, really good, and she was losing a lot of weight. And then a man noticed her and said she was beautiful and all these things. As soon as that man noticed her, she started eating again. Yes. So she started like overeating, and she gained like so much weight. And then, you know, the doctor that was helping her was like, what's going on? Like, why are you like backtracking? And she confessed that she was molested when she was younger.
I've had clients that have the same thing. They told me they did not feel comfortable or their weight going down because of that.
So her whole life, she was conditioned to just like, for her to, she wanted to be like, to just like really be ugly, to like be overweight so no man can look at her.
Yes.
It's really sad.
I've heard that a couple times. And also just understanding too, the emotional eating, because most of my clients are lifestyles, so beyond contest prep, emotional eating is one of the biggest things I see in stress eating. And even myself, when I worked in the hospital for 11 years, I'd come home starving, and I think it was that stress load. So just understanding, you know, I would have to reframe myself and go out for a walk just to kind of, you know, reduce that stress. And just recognizing that you have that stress response is important. And then the emotional thing, you know, I see that a lot. And the all or nothing is also another issue. So that's more of a mindset thing. So it's different than the eating disorder. But yeah, the emotional, like that's how you manage your emotions. That's something that's probably, I would say 75% of my clients have an issue with. And that's why they are in the state of being overweight. When it comes to like a competitor and like having that control, or like even myself, right? Because I've been in this for so long, you know, I always say I'm type A, slightly OCD, more so in the past than I am now. Because once you become a mother, that's out the window.
You're on their schedule.
Yeah. So that's changed. But but do I have some kind of type of control? Sort of. But I would say my balance in life is really good, because I was just on an 11-day trip. I didn't track a macro, you know, and did my thing, and I came back fine, you know. So I think understanding and trusting yourself at that point. But yeah, eating disorders is another can of worms. There are some people that have competed that had eating disorders and did fine, and never reverted back. So that's good to know. But I do think breaking down the behavior and the habits and understanding, why are we eating all these foods based on emotions? Is it coming back to that trauma, or is there something else? Now, you have to remember too, what foods you choose throughout the day can also lead to binging. So ultra processed foods, especially post competition, that's something I always recommend. Do not have them in your house, because even myself, I could eat a half a bag of croutons, okay? Girl. Because that's all I had for processed foods in my house. And I'm like, how embarrassing that I just ate a half a bag of croutons. But those processed foods are created. I actually heard recently, they're actually created by a nicotine company. So the nicotine companies went out of business and they went into big food industries. And what they did was they go in the labs and they try to find ways to make them more addictive so that you buy more. So that's the problem, right? So that's another aspect of binging, is people are going and getting a lot of ultra ultra processed foods and cannot stop consuming them, because even myself, I, as good as I am at things and as much food as I have, I can't stop eating it. Once you pop, you can't stop, right? What is that, Pringles or something?
Yeah, the Frito-Lay.
Yeah,
something. The Pringles or something, yeah.
So you have to be aware of the ultra-processed foods do lead to that. And
100%.
With all the food I had back in the day when I was doing It Fits Your Macros, like 2,200 calories, eating all that stuff, I was still starving. But I can eat the same amount of calories now and not be starving because I'm not eating a boatload of processed foods.
Yeah, or like empty calories.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you can't enjoy like a cookie or whatever, but if your whole day is based upon processed foods, you're gonna be hungry and you're gonna binge. And if you find yourself binging at nighttime, recognize, like, are you getting a bag of chips and sitting down and watching TV and not paying attention and being not aware? Because I know you're into mindfulness. If you're not paying attention, you'll be done a whole bag of chips because you're not paying attention. You're watching TV, which is fine, but you're not paying attention, so you're not in tune with your hunger cues. So there's like a whole realm of why we overeat, and psychology, but also just what can you control? And it might be just eliminating so much processed foods in your diet, and that's a great step to start.
100%. That's why, like, for me, like, I mean, I love eating healthy. To me, like, eating healthy is not about aesthetics. It's more of performance and how I'm fueling my body. It took me, I've always been like that. Competition, like, kind of like I pulled myself away from that for a while. And then now is when I'm finally like, I'm eating because this is fueling my body. I'm not trying to eat for aesthetics. This is fueling my body. This is nourishing my body. So, like, making that difference, like, of like, oh, I'm eating this because I want to look good in a bikini, into like, no, I'm eating this because this is going to fuel my body. So having that good that's also a good start to, like, switch your mindset when it comes to building a good relationship with food. But like, I don't buy anything processed. I think the only thing I buy processed here is, like, I don't know, like canned pasta sauce, or like maybe like turkey slices. And that's it. Like, we don't buy chips. We don't buy, like, I'll buy like healthy cereals, but it sits there for months because, I also, as a mother, and we'll kind of get into that too, like, I teach my son to have a high protein breakfast. Every time you eat, make sure it's protein. It's not garbage. It's not empty calories. And I'm not trying to restrict him. He knows that he can enjoy a cookie once in a while.
Exactly.
But I'm also, it's a good way to teach them, like, you can't, okay, let me not offend anyone. This is important because our children are the future. Our kids see everything that we do. Absolutely every freaking thing. And it's really important to teach them healthy, good habits, right? Good habits, healthy habits. So, like, if you're buying a bunch of processed food and snacks and all these things, and that's all they're eating, and you don't, like, you're not teaching them how to have a healthy, high protein meal, like, have eggs in the morning, like, make healthier choices, then it's just setting them up for failure. Because then that's what they're going to rely on as they get older, and they're not going to take care of themselves. It's definitely something in the long term that's going to affect them. So, like, my son, it's funny, like, sometimes I'll catch him, I'm washing his, like, I'm putting his clothes in the dryer.
How old is he again?
He's 15.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But he's funny because, like, he, I look at his clothes, and he'll have, like, little wrappers and stuff in there from school.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, Chris, what's all of this? We have so many wrappers. He's like, yeah, Mom, like, some of my friends give me stuff, but he's like, my friends make fun of me. They think that you don't feed me. He's like, no, it's because my mom eats healthy. Like, we eat healthy. My mom doesn't buy any of this stuff.
I know. And how crazy is it? It's not normalized.
I know. Yeah.
And my daughter's 3. So, like, there is some limits on, like, how much protein she actually eats. I try to force it, but you know, with a 3-year-old, I still buy her some snacks, but they're like, the Simply, what is it called? Like, Simple something, without all the junk in it. You read all the ingredients and you're like, okay, is this as limited as I can get? And she doesn't even really like them that much. Like, I'm like, do you want crackers? No, Mommy. She wants fruit. She wants vegetables. She doesn't even really eat cheese. She likes yogurt, but, she's like, no, Mommy, I want fruit, So bringing them up to start early, I think, is really important. Will it make it tougher in life? Possibly. But if more people could make that a common theme, I think everyone would be better off. My husband and I were talking, there's sick care, not really health care. I feel like,
oh my God, yeah,
we are not preventative enough. I know you were talking about labs, and I do believe I just started working with Merrick Health, which is a lab company. You can go on there, you can build your own labs, or you could use the advanced, like there's already a pre-lab on there. And they send you the requisition, you go to LabCorp, and then you get your results. And then they will guide you if you want to guide her. But I do believe a lot of women are not proactive enough in their labs, and men. But this is more, I think, slightly more women focused because women are more complicated. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But if you're not aware of where your hormones are at, then you can be into some trouble. So, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and there is an association with like a lower level of a certain hormone that can lead to Alzheimer's. My mother was just recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and her estrogen's high. What if she knew she had high estrogen, And she also has issues with her kidneys. She had kidney stones, and then she also has like a calcium issue, I think. So what if she knew, what if she knew this before? What if we were preventative? So I think it needs to be more preventative care, and it needs to be covered more. However, if we think about it, that doesn't always lead to the money that those, that are over our insurance want to have, right, for other things.
If it's not profitable, it's not.
Yeah, so preventative care is not profitable. But you can use your healthcare spending account to get those labs, and you can buy supplements and hopefully support your body a little bit better. I've been able to bring up, I had low cortisol after I had my baby. I was very down and depressed, and I mentioned it to my gynecologist. I was like, hey, here's my labs. What do you think? She goes, oh, well, that doesn't matter. Our hormones change throughout, our cycles, my progesterone was low and I had low cortisol. So I ended up taking it upon myself, took some supplements, made sure I rested more, and I was better, and now I'm post-show and I'm kind of managing a few things on my own again. And I'm like, let's see what we can do. I think we have more control of our bodies than we think, and our body's smarter than we think. I think a lot of people jump the gun and think they're wrecked or ruined, and and they're not. I think if you just take that time, and I pulled down my training, I only lift 4 days a week, which is a huge thing for me, That's a big drop. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I've lifted 4 days a week in a decade.
That's something that I had to detach myself from too. Just like I'm like, Emma, you don't have to work out 6 times a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard.
Like, you don't have to do
It's hard. I mean, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, if I looked at my labs and it was my client, like say the labs were my clients, I would have told them the same thing that I'm doing now, but it's like accepting it to myself, like I
Practice
have to
what
do
you
this.
preach.
Yeah. And I prioritize sleep now, today I slept 8 to 9 hours and I feel
That's
great.
amazing.
Yeah. But on prep, you know how it is, girl. You're like 5-6 hours. If you got to fit everything in, you have way more boxes to fill out on prep.
That's how I was.
Posing, cardio, steps, lifting. And prep, like what you said in the beginning, prep is not healthy. We got to be honest here.
Yeah, let's be real, guys.
Prep is not healthy, okay? Because what happens is, like I said, you are going to have a drop in testosterone. You are going to have a drop in thyroid function. Those are the things that are going to go first, even if you're a male or female, and even if you are using performance enhancers, it is going to drop it. If you're using certain performance enhancers, it's going to still drop your testosterone unless you are taking TRT, right? And even that, you might have to change the dosaging and all that stuff. That's another subject, but it's not healthy.
Yeah.
Because your body is actually in a starvation mode, and what your body's trying to do is survive. However, do I still like competing, and will I compete again? Yes.
I know, right? It's like we know it's bad. It's like oh, I love using this analogy. It's like the chocolate bar is bad, but you just want to eat the chocolate bar.
Yeah.
You want to keep eating the chocolate bar.
Yeah. So, but that's also why it's good to take some time off. And that's why I've extended that time off, because I realized, my hormones are still not where they need to be to compete naturally, and to be successful, and not even successful, just to be healthy, right? So I need to get those levels up, and it might take me until December. And then where am I going to be at? What am I going to go cut in, July? Was that 7 months of being normal? So you have to be aware, no, I probably need a full year of being at a normal hormone level and then start my cut again. Because what are you going to do? You're going to keep, your body can only, restart so many times and be okay. So it's just being aware that you are putting some trauma on your body
Exactly.
every time you compete. So that's just something to be aware of. It doesn't mean like you should not compete, because like I said, I'm going to compete again, but and I love it. I'm very passionate. Been doing it forever, right? And I love getting my clients ready because it's cool. It's really fun to see the transformation, but just being prepared that it's hard on your body. You're going to have a really hard time post-show with your image. You're going to put that weight back on. Be prepared to have bigger bras, because if you're growing those lats, girl, I went from extra small to a small.
Oh, okay.
And at the same weight. I used to be
like
extra
that.
small at this weight. So I'm like, okay, we must have some wings. And I'm not mad about it. So it's just almost like taking that as positive, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, wow, our audience can tell that we're such meatheads. Yeah. I think I call myself a meathead all the time. I'm just like,
I love it.
Oh, okay, my lats. Okay.
Like,
yes. I'm just like,
I love that, girl.
I know, me too. Yeah.
And I used to be like the leg training girl and the glute training girl, but like I noticed my upper body was a little lagging behind on my lower body, which is funny because when I started it was the opposite. And then my legs finally like caught up in glutes, and now I'm like ahead. Now I'm like, I love upper body training now.
Me
like
too.
it is I'm like, yes, it's upper body day. Like I never said that.
I know. Like leg day, I'm such a baby. I need like a trainer or something. I push
I
myself.
know you said that.
I push myself. I do. Like I'll do the progressive overload and I'll do everything to failure. But there are days where I'm so tired and I'm like, I'm just gonna stop here.
But what
Which is fine. Like whatever. I'm not perfect.
I just find it like really empowering. Like my favorite exercises are like back and shoulder exercises now. I just find them so like, I like how I feel. Like I just feel like I look jacked now when I do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is awesome.
I love feeling strong.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And RDLs are the other fave though. I will say for leg days, RDLs are my jam, and I feel like really empowered for those. And that's the other thing, like people, it's important to remember, like going into fitness is super good for your confidence. And if you are weightlifting, 'cause so many women are scared to weightlift, weight training will really help your confidence.
Oh my God. Girl, I can talk about that like for hours too, what you just said. But just to unpack one little thing, and these are for my women that are listening that, are afraid to lift weights. Like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with lifting weights. They like automatically, like someone that doesn't have experience in the gym. For women, you tell them, okay, like weight training, they're like, no, I don't want to be bulky. You're not going to be bulky. They have like this image that I'm going to look like a bodybuilder, and I'm like,
trying to be bulky, and we're on what year? I'm like, let's go.
First of all, it takes time, and if you have, the proper nutrition, the right training, it changes your body composition. Yes. And automatically, when women think like, okay, I want to lose weight, or I want to like look thin or whatever, I have a flat tummy, they automatically, I'm going to do cardio. I'm going to do an hour of cardio every day. I'm going to be running. I'm going to be doing all these things. And it's like, no, actually, you don't need to do all that craziness. I know
it'll make you hungrier, by the way.
Hungrier. Also, doing a lot of HIIT workouts is not good for your hormones either.
Especially as you age.
Yeah.
I don't do any HIIT, even on prep. I haven't done HIIT in 2 years.
It raises your estrogen. Yeah. So that's another factor too, important to understand. And like, it's not about eating less, so you actually get to eat more.
Yes.
So like, that's why it's really important when you're starting a fitness journey, like to really educate yourself and find the right coach. But I would really love to talk about your journey of like postpartum and all of that, because this is also like something beautiful to share as well. And that's when it comes like taking ownership, right? Like ownership for yourself and your health. I know a lot of women, like they just kind of like give up on themselves, like when and it's totally fine. Like motherhood is not easy.
Not at all.
Like at all. At all. I mean, my son's 15. I don't know what it really feels like. I know what it feels like, but it's been a while since he was a baby and all that stuff. But it's hard.
Very hard.
So how was your transition? You were competing for so many years, then you got married.
And I was fit when I got married, so like I wasn't even like falling off. I'm like, man.
So how was it like, having your daughter, and then like, did you bounce back right away?
Well, so we got to think too what time it was. So we were 2021. So that was a different time to be alive. I already was having depression from 2021 because I was working in the hospital, and it was just a high stress job. It was fight or flight for all of 2020. Go into 2021, I got pregnant in the fall of 2020. We got married in March 2020. It was planned pregnancy because I was older. And we're like, okay, let's, we only got so much time.
Yeah, yeah.
So I spent all of my pregnancy working in the hospital, and I had to wear all the full gear, and it was just high stress, it was a lot. I did gain, I think 20 pounds, 21 pounds, 22 pounds, all stomach. I worked out, the whole time. I did like prenatal yoga. I actually gave birth naturally. Like
That's
no like
amazing.
drug. Yeah, like it was crazy. It's not for everyone. Like I always say, coaching yourself's not for everyone, nor is giving birth without pain medication.
My God. No, that's awesome.
But it was a goal. Okay, so I'm a goal-driven girl, obviously. 40th birthday goal, pregnancy goal. I'm like, let's try to have this baby. I stood up, I think, until 9 centimeters, I think it was, which is, we go to 10, right? And I was with my husband doing deep breathing, and I gave birth, but I ripped because they made me push, and I told myself, don't push like that, but you're in the moment, and
yeah.
it is what it is. So the recovery phase was hard. Had the rip, the tear.
Yeah.
And then I love walking, so I overwalked a little bit, and I started feeling pressure down there, and I had to pull back my walking, and then they cleared me for exercise. So I followed, I am prenatal certified, so something to encourage you guys, like, take it easy. You should not be doing legs with resistance until 12 weeks postpartum, and you should not be running. So just keep that in mind. So I followed that. But the hardest part was mentally. I had a really hard time mentally. First of all, your lack of sleep, your hormones are off. So those two things is probably why I was off mentally. And it was a change of life, All of a sudden I'm a mom. And I was independent, extremely independent, and alone. And I like to be alone. And I have this little one that needs me all the time. And I'm like, I need space. So it was hard for me. I always tell everyone that I, get my client calls and they're postpartum. I'm like, listen, I wasn't myself for 18 months. It was really hard. Mentally, I had postpartum depression really bad. Like I'd never went on medication for it. I tried to manage it myself, but I had dark days. I had dark times. It was really hard. I don't think it helped that I had low cortisol and low progesterone though. So once again, just making sure you check your labs, see what's going on with that. It does take time though. So like, check your labs right after you have a baby. Like give yourself that time. But rebalancing your hormones the best that you can is really important. And then getting back into your workout routine and getting outside, but it is hard. So working out at home is the best thing to do as a mom. Like you said, you worked out at home. Get into a workout routine at home. Nourish your body. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Make sure you're getting enough healthy fats.
like baby steps, like getting back into it. Yeah,
because I didn't even track my macros until January, and I had her in May. So like I took time. I just had really nice balanced meals, especially when I was trying to like keep up with the milk supply for a little bit. And that's another journey. Breastfeeding is another journey. It's just so much being a mom. There's so much that happens, and complexity and stress and worry and just constant. So it's a lot of stress and fight or flight moments. But keeping your identity is important. So that's what I, kind of like keeping your identity competing, keep your identity as a mom.
Yeah. No, and I understand that too, because it's everyone's journey, postpartum journey is so different. It's so like, we can give all of the advice, right? And I loved how you said that, like, just remember your identity. And your identity is not only as a mom, but your identity also as a woman. Like, you are worthy of being healthy. You are worthy of taking care of yourself. Like, yes, being a mother is a blessing. It's a beautiful thing, and no one can ever take that away from you. But also remember, like, if you're not good, how is everything else in your life is going to be good? You know what I mean? Because I hear this all the time. Like, I just want to be a mom. That's me. That's my only identity. Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute, no, but like, you're a powerful woman as well. You're ambitious. Like whatever that may look like for you. But I think health is like the number one key. Like, don't just like, yes, it's hard, it's a struggle, it's a rumble, but don't give up. Give yourself grace, and you can get back the ball rolling with your health.
And preparation is key. A lot of times moms are like, I don't know how we have time. You've got to get up early, get to the gym. So that means you got to cut some stuff out at nighttime that is not serving you for your goals, and get to bed and work out in the morning before the little kiddo gets up. And you got to have that food prepared. Because if you don't have that prepared, you're going to have all the excuses in the book why you can't eat healthy. So those are my 2 biggest tips to moms. And start off slow. Make sure you take care of your pelvic floor. That's really, really important. That's the biggest issue most moms have is weakness in their pelvic floor, or they have separation in their abs. So just keep that in mind. Take it easy. You know, I know a lot of times people are like, you know, get to hit and things like that. Don't do it. Don't do it. And my bounce back was not a bounce back. It was very slow. But I was okay with it, believe it or not. And it was a good transitional phase. And then it took me a long time. And I lost a lot of muscle during the pregnancy, even though I worked out the whole time. And that's why I still feel like I got more in me to compete naturally, because I lost that muscle. I put some on, but I haven't done a build phase for prep yet. So I'm like, let's go, It was a build phase for lifestyle, right? And then I was like, I think I'm going to compete. And then I did like a short stint of building while I was cutting. I did like a mini cut to maintain a lower weight. And it was just like not probably as productive as it could have been. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. And as far as like your coaching goes as well, so with your coaching career, that's amazing what you're currently doing. What inspired you to do that and like to start your coaching career? And then also like, what is your vision with coaching? So
I started coaching 10 years ago, and it was a side gig. I was working full time as a therapist. People had reached out when I was competing, like, or even after competing, you need to help me. Like, I need a workout plan. I'm like, I don't know about that. Maybe someday. But I had so many requests that I was like, okay, let's do this. So I got a bunch of certifications, and I've accrued a bunch over the years. I started off with challenges, actually. So this month, actually yesterday, I decided to do another challenge, because that was like how I all started. And I've got a bunch of people already joining. It's a 6-week challenge. They get a one-time workout plan. They're fighting to get the transformation, which Icon Meals is going to give a $200 gift card, and they get a Team B Shae Fit sweatshirt. And I've had a lot of the girls that started with me in 2014 re-enter this. So I'm really excited. So with my coaching, I really just want to empower women to have a balance in their life, feel confident being whoever they are, right? Because every client is different, and every client does different things. You know, some are a mom, some are not. Some are students. Some want to compete. Some are just hard workers that are like CEOs of companies. Some are working in healthcare, physician assistants. They want to be their best selves. So empowering them and doing weekly check-ins with them and finding what those barriers are to help them reach their full potential is what I love to do. I love to train them hard. I love hearing their PRs. Like, that's my favorite. And then also just seeing that, wow, you stopped eating so much junk. Like, you are fueling your body finally. So those are the things that I like to push in my coaching, and doing it for 10 years is just, I love it. I can only help but evolve my coaching. I give lots of information, so they're learning constantly. Those are the things I like to do. I like to teach, not like a teacher, but like a coach, teach, educate during the process, so that they can eventually just do it on their own. I have some clients that have been with me for years, like 8 years, I think.
Wow. Because
they love like the workouts, and they like touching base, and they're still making change and progress. Amazing. And they're in like 40s and 50s. And, it's really cool. And it's cool to see the women follow me from 2012 into now, and they're in their 40s and 50s, right? Because I'm 40, so it's like the same. And it's kind of really cool, and help them transition, because that's a big transition in life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, like, women, even like women in our 30s, 40s, 50 and up, like, I see this trend of like, oh, I'm getting old, so I'm not going to work out. It's like, no,
it's actually more important now.
It's more important. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's for longevity. It's like for your health. So it's really beautiful to see that you're helping so many women in that age range, like motivating them and empowering them. Like, it's really beautiful to see.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, Brittni, we can literally talk for hours.
Yeah. We'll have to do another one.
We have to do a part 2 for sure.
We might have to do like a certain topic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. No, I love it, and hearing your story and how you started competing and your coaching journey and all of that.
Yeah, so I full-time coach now, actually. So
Oh.
I stopped working in the hospital in 2021 when I had my daughter, and yeah, so now I'm full-time coaching, and I absolutely love it.
Oh my God, that's
So.
exciting. No, you're killing it, guys. And then I'll drop her information in the description.
Yes.
So I have one more question for
Okay.
you, and this is a question that I ask every single guest.
Even the guys?
Even the guys.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question is, what does inherent success mean to you?
I think that means having control of what you find is successful in your life. So that can mean completely different things to every single person. So for me, my success is to leave a positive impact onto everyone, and to hopefully have nothing but positive thoughts about me and how I can help them grow into their own successes.
I love that. I love that. Everyone says something so different. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Brittni,
Thank
for being
you.
on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. Well, you can find me on all social media as B Shae Fit, which is BSHAEFIT. Facebook, Brittni Shae. It's BRITTNI. SHAE, and then bshaefit.com, same spelling, so pretty easy, and bshaefit@gmail.com. I really keep everything consistent. That's important about business. Maybe we'll do a business podcast.
Oh yeah, I love that. Okay,
Since you're good at that too.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again,
Thank
Brittni,
you.
for being on the show. And guys, if you found any value in this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Also, to get notified when the next episode is up, you can just kind of hit the little ding-ling bell, ding-a-ling. Ding-ding-ling bell up top, and then stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you. Thank you for watching.